Jesus.
Brent, board the windows.
What?
Bro, board the window.
What are you? What are you talking about? Oh my God. What? What's going on?
They're coming.
Who's coming?
Vag! Last week, I ranked the best cars to modify in a comprehensive list, and that meant cat vomit because the internet said, where is my Mark 7? How can you compare Miata to a Corvette? And most importantly, why are you only comparing M cars? Now, I thought about these questions as I was taking a leisurely stroll down by the pond before a Volkswagen owner tried hitting me with their rusted Passat. And I thought to myself, dang, I messed up. Dare to say I may have just missed a couple cars. So here's my part 2, my Dune 2. Al-Gaib, okay? And you better watch the whole thing because I'm not backing down on some properly cars. But you guys and gals are wicked smart. And I learned some things too that we should share. So I'm Alex Martini, I like to drink. Mod your car with your friends at martiniworks.com. Before tariff prices raise words, you know what I'm trying to say. It's Sunday. Happy Easter. If you need help, let us know in the chat box. First things first, the categories remain the same. Stock performance, aftermarket support, ease of doing it yourself, wrenchability, insurance costs, reliability after mods, and community and culture of platform. But there was a huge problem. The price of a car carried the same weight towards the total score that we were using as something like reliability after mods. And those aren't the same importance. So I added something called weights. Some things got little black weights, like a small little amplifier of like 1.5, while others got the 45-pound barbell of amplification of like 4.5, and I scored those 1 to 5. And I reorganized the categories, and what we got was this: 4.5 to affordability, 4 to stock performance, 3.5 to aftermarket support, 3 to wrenching, 2.5 to insurance costs, 2 to reliability, and 1.5 to community and culture. I then took those multipliers and I reran them again to get the following updated numeros. Now, why did I do this? Well, because I still think the cost of a car is the #1 thing that would prevent you from modifying your car. After that, the car is all about the bang for your buck before you do anything, or stock performance. Then we go into modifying that bang for buck car, which then requires us to actually work on our own boxes versus just talking about it. And then after that, we're probably realizing that insurance is way more than we thought because we never actually asked our insurance agent how much it was gonna cost to own a B5 S4 when you're 17 years old. And then by then you've already broken the car, which leaves you with leaning on the community to help you fix it. So we had a base score plus an amplifier, new number. That's new. And when we ran the numbers against the 47 car models we had in this list, this changed our score on the following models. The FK8 lost 8 positions, along with the GR Corolla, the M240i, and the M4. The Z lost 7 positions. The FL5 lost 5. The biggest wins were to the Spider, the Mazda Speed 3, the R53 Mini Cooper, moving it up at least 8 spots, mostly because of price. The total ranking can be found right here, along with the category tiers used to give those scores. So you don't yell at me. But before we change the manufacturers, we did need to change like the biggest issue. Alex, why didn't you include the E36 318i? Alex, why didn't you include the Scat Pack that's in my backyard that's got 140,000 miles? Alex, why wouldn't you just grab my neck and tell me that my TTRS is cool? I'm sorry, I had to do better for you, for macchiato. So I went back to the drawing board and I added in 15 more cars with a minimum of 3 cars per brand, and we added in more brands. New to the table are brands like Volvo, Dodge, more BMWs, Audi, and Volkswagen. I did it. We added it. It's in here, baby. The E36 3 Series, the E93 Series, the Volvo V70R, the Volvo S60R, the Dodge 392 Scat Pack, the Dodge Hellcat, the Dodge Neon SRT4, the Volkswagen GTI 7-Tren, the Golf R8, the Corrado, the B5 S4 Audi, the TTRS, and the RS3. The Corrado got a pretty crummy rating though because it's just generally a god-awful old car, but we love it because we just love it, you know, like a stray animal. And after scoring all those up, here is what we get for the new branded ranking starting. Don't ever let me do that again. 19th place is Tesla, 18th Kia, 17th Alfa Romeo, 16th is Dodge. I'll get into that. 15th is Mitsubishi, 14th is Mini Cooper, 13th is Fiat, 12th is Audi, 11th is Lexus, 10th is Toyota, 9th is Volvo, 8th is BMW, 7th is Acura, 6th is Subaru, 5th is Nissan, 4th is Mazda, 3rd is Hyundai, 2nd is Honda, and 1st is Ford. I can already feel the heat the WPMs coming at me in the comment section. But there is some things that I want to talk about car by car. I do want to say that affordability to entry was huge, and it did hurt some brands. While Toyota and BMW are known as some of the biggest manufacturers right now, and they make properly good cars, there's no doubt that mixing an M2 with an E36 is helping the SCAR. So with that said, we also broke it down by category too. With affordability to entry, Mazda, Lexus, Fiat, and Mini Cooper actually dominated the ring with the cars that we used. Then Acura, Chevy, Honda, Ford followed closely behind. Towards the tail end of it, we get into Subaru, Alfa Romeo, Tesla, cheaper than Mitsubishi, surprisingly, when you actually consider the amount of time it's going to cost you to maintain an Evo 8. And then we have Hyundai, Kia, Nissan, Toyota, and BMW. BMWs, they're expensive. They just are, okay? But stock performance, the winners are, number one, BMW. Wins almost across every single mark. Second place, Hyundai. Third, Toyota, followed by Ford, and then Nissan. Now, aftermarket support, those things that you want when you modify your car, the winners for that actually start to clean themselves up. Number one is Ford. Number two, Mazda. Three, Subaru, Mitsubishi, Chevy, and Honda. That's not to say that others don't have the aftermarket support, but remember, we're also taking into consideration the cost of the mods to actually modify those platforms. And while ease of doing it yourself is really important, this is also something that you want to keep in mind. And you're going to see a name that I've already brought up before. First place, Mazda, Honda, Acura, Lexus, Ford, and Chevrolet. The best cars for insurance based on the example cars that we used were Acura, Lexus, Hyundai, and Honda. You guys following me? Because each category, there's different winners. And generally speaking, there are certain brands that are going to do it better for everything. That doesn't mean that they're the best for everything. They're just the most well-rounded, which goes into the last one, the most reliable car. After mods, weirdly enough, first place takes Tesla, and I can't imagine why. You know why. It's just how the system works. You can't modify a battery, all right? Number two is Mazda, three is Ford, then Chevy, Honda, Toyota, Nissan, and then BMW. Community and culture, we gave perfect 10 out of 10 marks to BMW, Mazda, Honda, and Ford, with Toyota coming in fifth. All right, so first things first, anything that's marked in blue was new. We added in Dodge, we added in the SRT4, the RT Scat Pack, and the SRT Hellcat. And what we actually came across is they were pretty well ranked. The only problem with those cars specifically when we start looking at this is insurance is absolutely terrible on every single one of them. When we ran the example insurance costs through Progressive, it was not looking good. Number two, we haven't necessarily heard that the community and culture of the Dodge era is necessarily the best one to be a part of. They also don't really have the best perception, I think I would say, which does make it a little bit tough if you want to jump into a platform and then, you know, you got to kind of figure out if that group is what you want. And that's a thing. That's a very real thing. If you guys have ever hung out with the drift community versus the car show community versus the Hyundai community, you will know that there's a very big difference between those different groups of people. Like, I don't know how to explain it until you're in it. And when you're in it, then you know. The Dodge did good, not necessarily the greatest, but the affordability to entry was pretty decent for the SRT4, but obviously the Scat Pack and the Hellcat weren't that great. Stock performance, solid. Aftermarket support, good. Ease of doing it yourself and rentability was okay. The SRT4 did get higher marks on that, but yeah, insurance was terrible, et cetera, et cetera. Up next, Audi. Okay, I've had Audis, I love Audis. The C5 A6 2.7T with the 6-speed, still to this day, in my opinion, barks the best bang for buck you could possibly get. 250 horsepower stock, throw an APR stage 1 in there, buddy, you got 318 horsepower, you got 350 foot-pounds of torque. Don't tell me I don't know Audi. I just forgot about them. Now, Audi has the RS3, the TTRS, and the B5 S4. And what I aimed to do here with some of these new cars was make sure that we had some form of entry-level car, some mid-tier car, and then some premium car. Otherwise, if you just go all cheap, you're generally gonna have a stronger ranking than if you had something that was all expensive. So with that said, honestly, across the board, Audi did really good. The Audi RS3 and the TTRS share the same engine configuration, Both are absolutely fantastic cars. The B5 S4 is a gorgeous car, but it is a little bit difficult and tricky to not only work on, but also insure if you're younger. They also don't really do well with staying alive after you've modified them. I know a bunch of people that have gone stage 3 B5 S4s, they're fantastic, but they always seem to have an issue, like all the time. The TTRS and the RS3 actually got really good ranks in terms of reliability after modification, but the fact that they're newer makes them a little bit more expensive. And because they're more expensive, typically that insurance is gonna creep up with you. In my opinion, the RS3 is actually a little bit worse than the TTRS because the RS3 is a sedan with back seats that you have to chop your legs off to use. The TTRS doesn't fake to be what it is, which is just a coupe sports car that's a ton of fun. It's a mini Ferrari engine on a budget R8 chassis, and I love every second of it. These things ranked really, really well, but you do have to have deep, deep pockets. In fact, I think this ranked right next to Lexus in terms of overall scoring. Now, Volvo was a brand, I swear to God, I love you guys, but it's also hilarious because there just isn't that much out there anymore. And while there is, and it's a vocal group, and I love all of you, and I love the flying bricks that you build, it's not common enough to really get out there and say, you should pick this when you consider some of these other manufacturers. Now that said, I did pick the V70R 2nd gen, the S60R 1st gen, and then of course I had to throw the brick in there, the 240, because it's absolutely awesome. And to be fair, these things do rank out pretty well. V70Rs are absolutely sick, S60Rs are equally sick. You just have to keep in mind that you're buying a Volvo, and working on them yourself can be a little bit tricky. Depending on what year you get, depending on what sort of model you get, a lot of times you're gonna end up with an issue where if something does break, you're going to be paying a lot of money. There were certain years where the Volvo actually came with glass headlights, and if you break those, it is Audi's level of money in terms of getting those things repaired. Best ranking though, affordability to entry. Some of the worst scores here, a lot of it had to do with ease of doing it yourself and wrenchability. Volvos aren't inherently the best to work on, and a lot of these things, especially like the 240 and even the V70R, are getting up to an age where everything plastic and rubber related is cracking and breaking, and you're chasing vacuum lines, and it can be a big pain in the butt. It did score well, it just wasn't necessarily the best or the worst. And the great news is you can look at all of these rankings in the link below. And if you disagree with me, you can throw a banana at my head, or you can be like that one Passat owner that was at the car meet this last weekend that said that he was upset that his car wasn't included. Great news, the Passat's not included in the V2 version of this either. Next. BMW. I had to add 2 more. Unfortunately, BMW had the largest list of cars on this. We added the E36 3 Series and then the E93 Series with the N52. Those things ranked very, very well in terms of affordability to entry. Unfortunately, where we started to fall off was the ease of doing it yourself, the wrenchability, and a little bit on the insurance. Now, with that said, these do make great cars. It didn't change the ranking around too much. I think the actually E36 ranked above the E93 series by just a touch. The E36 is a great analog driving car. It's affordable, it's fun, it takes all the mods, it's got a good, strong community. I just think working on it yourself can be a little bit tricky. With that said, Volkswagen, VAG. I wanted to say VAG the other way when I started this video, then I realized I get put on a list. We did the Volks GTI, Mark 7. We did the Golf R, the 8th, and then we did the Volkswagen Beetle. Why? They're cool, they're rad, and they're sick, and they are kind of fun. There really isn't also a whole lot of other Volkswagens that most people are modifying. And when you think about it, Beetles are actually more modified than the other two combined because they used to have a really big heyday. Anyway, what did they get ranked best on? I mean, honestly, the best thing about it was stock performance. I marked the Golf R a 9 out of 10 in stock performance and the GTI as an 8. I also ranked them both as 8s for their aftermarket support. Their ease of doing it yourself got into that 6-7 range. The insurance is where you started to take a tumble. The GTI got a 7 out of 10, but the R got a 4 out of 10. The community was strong, the reliability after modification is good. The Volkswagen Beetle got great ranks because it's cheap and it's easy to use, and a lot of times, back in the day, dare I say, a lot of people used to say that if you wanted to learn how to work on a car, you'd learn on a Volkswagen Beetle. It was one of the easiest cars to learn how to work on an engine that was behind you and not in front of you. You learned how to drop an engine in a Volkswagen Beetle. You could learn how to do a timing belt in a Volkswagen Beetle. You could learn how to do everything in a Volkswagen Beetle because They were goddamn indestructible. They are properly cool though, and if you have one, please add it to the build threads because I get tired of telling people that Beetles are cool because nobody believes me. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is why we had some key differences. Some of the big things that we talked about, like the FK8 Type R, had huge changes. We had Nissan Z that went down the rank. We also had some cars that stayed in the same spot. The Ford Mustang S650 is a really solid option if you're willing to pay the money. The Mazda Miata, the ND, is a great car to snag. The Chevy Corvette, the C5, is a fantastic car to buy. Some of these cars are just properly good cars. The Lexus ISF, the Mazda Miata NA, the Acura RSX Type S, these are all good cars. A lot of times we broke it into the categories because we get asked all the time. We get said, hey, Alex, I wanna get something that's just affordable to jump into and fun to drive. 2 of these categories answered that exact question. Other people say, I don't wanna deal with ever touching the engine. I want something that's got a ton of power and it's cheap to jump into. That changes this list. Then you've got people that say, listen, I'm an adult and I pay my own bills. I would really like it if insurance wasn't absolutely horrid. That has a different ranking. Not everybody can ask for the most perfect car, because the most perfect car on this list, if you had an unlimited budget, would probably be a 2nd gen or 3rd gen Audi R8. And I stand by that to the day that I die because they're fantastic cars. But we don't have $150,000, folks. I didn't have $5 to pay a bill last night, and I had to Venmo the person because I asked for a drink and I needed to give them a tip, and I felt bad. So with that being said, you'll have to let me know if you agree with the V2 of this list, and if you don't, you'll tell me. I know you're gonna tell me. And Volkswagen, I'm sorry. I love you. I don't love your screens. I wasn't a huge fan of what you released at the New York Auto Show, and I'd really like it if the Tokyo Auto Salon took their Golf R and brought it to the United States because it has all the good bits except the touchscreen and haptic feedback buttons. And I just think we need to talk over dinner. I think it'd be really important for you and me to set aside our grievances and figure out how we can work together moving forward. Otherwise, I'm gonna cheat on you with Genesis. I'm Alex Martini. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're looking for car parts, mod your car over at martiniworks.com, and we will see you later. Adios.